What did the top 10 quarterbacks for 2025 look like? We got some lists. I don't know about all that. We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. Coming up in the third segment, we're going to talk Oklahoma win totals for 2025. Really interesting number we'll discuss and dive into. Tell you if you're going to hammer the over, hammer the under. We'll give you our thoughts on that. But Jay, we got some top 10 quarterback lists that came out on Wednesday, and they're interesting to say the least.
Yeah, very interesting. First, you had Mr. Crawford over there at 247. He put out his top 10 quarterbacks, and John, I'm just gonna say I'm okay. I guess I get where he's going from. I mean Brad, he decided. Here, I'll name them out, right? Top 10, number 1's K Klubnik, number 2, Garrett Nussmeier, 3, Arch Manning, 4, Sam Levitt, 5 is Carson Beck, 6, Lenore Sellers, 7, Fernando Mendoza, 8, Drew Aller, 9, Diego Pavia, and number 10 is Jackson Arnold.
JFA.
That was an interesting one to me to see of all people that's the one they added without, not knowing if he's, what he's going to look like in that system. And then you added another one here from, our partners at FanDuel. They decided to drop their way too early list as well at quarterback. And it's similar to the one you saw from Brad Crawford over there at CBS. But you had Nussmeier, you had Arch Manning, but you had DJ Lagway in there with Aller, Nico Yamaleava, Lenore Sellers, K Klubnik, Carson Beck, Dylan Raiola, as well as Caden Salters, which is over at Colorado. Now, I understand the Salter hype. He rushed for 1,000 yards, threw for almost 3,000 at Liberty one year, the year they went undefeated and got blown out by Oregon in the bowl game. The kid's got talent, but I don't understand at all, John, how John Mantier is not even considered in any of these lists.
It's wild to me too, because if you're going to go and make a top 10 quarterback list and you're going to include a guy like Jackson Arnold, I mean, no disrespect to Jackson Arnold, but you had a terrible season. There's no reason to think that you're a top 10 quarterback in college football right now. Could you be a top 10 quarterback in college football when all is said and done in 2025? Absolutely. I still think he's got the talent to go and do big things for Auburn. But he hasn't shown it yet at the collegiate level consistently. So why are you going to put him in there in the top 10? And then I get the Caden Salter hype, but I think the hype is more because he's replacing Shadur. And everybody saw what Shadur was able to do in Colorado's offense.
Yeah.
Is he going to be able to replicate that? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, he's a couple years removed from that big season from Liberty. So yeah. I don't think that there's any guarantees there. Otherwise, I don't really have much issue with either of these lists. I expected to see Nussmeier and Arch Manning within the top 2 or 3, and they are on both lists. Sam Leavitt, I can't pronounce his name.
It's saying Levitt? Yeah.
Levitt, thank you. I always watch games on mute because the kids, but so anyway.
Understood.
Yeah, that one, I like that inclusion. I think he's a gamer. He's one of those dudes. That, okay, he may not have the big time NFL tools that you're looking for, but like a Diego Pavia that comes in at number 9 on Brad Crawford's list, they're just dudes that they just have those intangibles that help you win football games. Fernando Mendoza, that's interesting. In the Indiana offense, I think he has a chance to put up some numbers. But again, Carson Beck, Cade Klubnik, Lenore Sellers, all expect to see those names. I'm high on Tennessee because of Nico returning, obviously for 2025 and being able to build on what he did in 2024. He had some good moments, some bad moments. He'll get better. It was just his first year as a starter in Josh Heupel's system. So, and then the DJ Lagway piece, that's going to be the one that's the most intriguing. If Florida is going to have any chance of making a college football playoff run next year, it's going to be on the arm of DJ Lagway. If he can show a lot of the good that he showed this year and not so much of the bad and be consistent next year, because they're going to have a tough schedule again, because the SEC is staying, it's going to flip. It was tough this year. It's going to be tough next year. If he can rise to the occasion, they're going to be a problem for some teams. They finished really, really strong. I got no real problem with this other than, the Jackson Arnold hype. And again, I was conducting the Jackson Arnold hype train this time a year ago. I've learned some lessons here, which is why I'm maybe asking people to not have such high expectations for Arch going into 2025, because it's a first-time starter. If he doesn't make the playoff, maybe even if Texas doesn't win the national title, people are going to look at it like a disappointment.
No, I totally agree. And I mean, the good thing for him, even talking about him last episode for Arch is, this is his, third season going into the system. So he's been around and he understands what Steve Sarkisian wants to do. The problem you run into is that, the biggest problem you run into is, all the changes they're going to have to make in preparation for him. Now, they've got guys that are on the roster that's been around enough, especially on the offensive line. They're just bringing up younger guys. But still, until we see him play, I don't see it. The Jackson Arnold piece is still kind of weird to me with him being there at Auburn. We just saw the Peyton Thorne situation. He threw for 3,000 yards at Michigan State and couldn't replicate that at Auburn for some very weird reason. That tells me enough about the whole situation there that I should expect. Diego Pavia, though, he definitely deserves some respect to be on this list, and I definitely appreciate that's what Brad decided to add. I don't know about this other one, though, with Dylan Raiola. I mean, are we really already hyped up on that? I think he's a solid quarterback. I need him to prove it to me. It's going to take some work for him to prove that to me, but I don't see why we need to have Dylan Raiola up there this early. I mean, give me another full year. Give me some big numbers. And also, one more, Drew Aller. I mean, no offense, but his wide receivers didn't catch a single pass in the playoff in that last game, right? Did they just have a whole bunch of dudes transfer out mainly because of that? Like, I don't get the Drew Aller love either.
He's a returning quarterback from an offense that was pretty good in 2024. And this is where I come to. It's the quarterback position in 2025 outside of the top 3 or 4 is kind of cooked, man. Like, it's not great. Like, this is kind of a down year for quarterbacks this next year after what we saw the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not excited about really any of them. Like, when I'm sitting here saying Garrett Nussmeier is, to me, the front runner for the Heisman, the dude's good, but is he this big time generational talent that can't miss prospect? No, I don't think so. It's going to be a weird year for quarterbacks. Hopefully these guys got their run games going and the offensive lines are working, because I don't see anybody on this list that is like a no doubter can lead his team to a national title.
Yeah, I don't see a single player that has that capability. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier is going to have a good year again. I expect Cade Klubnik to have another one. I mean, this would be his 3rd year really running the system. So the expectation is he should show up, but yeah, that's it.
But we've seen so many roller coasters out of all these guys. And maybe that's why Arch is getting so much love, because we haven't seen the roller coaster ride of the Arch Manning experience. And maybe there won't be. Maybe it'll just be a rocket ship strapped to his back and he'll just take off like you're playing college football 25 and controlling the guy. Everybody else, they've had some big ups, some big downs, and it's going to be anybody's guess where this all ends up, who ends up in New York. It could be another year where we see a non-quarterback win the Heisman next year because of the quarterback situation that we're looking at right now. There's no definitive guy that's like, he's the number one guy. To me, it's going to be a crapshoot, and we're going to be following this all season to see, okay, this guy's the number one quarterback. No, this guy's the number one quarterback. This guy's the number one quarterback. And everybody's going to be guessing and just, trying to pull names out of a hat to see who's going to be ending up in the Heisman ceremony in New York after the 2025 season. We got some win totals. Let's discuss those win totals coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.